Richard Marx, arguably one of the most prolific songwriters to come out of the 1980s, just dropped his 13th studio album, Songwriter. And I gotta tell you, after listening to it a few times today, you know what? I think this album stands out among his catalog. And I'm gonna go through a few reasons why I say that, starting with the raw emotion. Now, in listening to this album, one of the very first things I pick up is there's an edge to a number of these songs unlike I've ever heard on some of his previous work. Now, Richard Marx has a history of collaborating with some pretty talented artists and songwriters, and this album's no different, where he's co-written music with Darius Rucker, Chris Daughtry, Keith Urban, Jason Wade of Lifehouse, David Hodges of Evanescence, Matt Scannell of Vertical Horizon, as well as Adam Messenger of Magic.
I see a vision in the neon lights, but it's only a memory. The words you whispered wake me up at night, but it's only a memory, only a memory. It's always sunny.
Another thing that I find really interesting about this album is the diversity and genre mixing that you can hear across a number of the songs. So, for example, the song I just gave you the snippet of, "Only a Memory," has that very strong pop type feel that you might associate with Richard Marx. But there's also, a number of songs that have that modern country type vibe.
Come on and listen to the band, cancel all of your plans. Let me buy you another round. The voices in my head to be quiet instead. Let your laughter drown.
So in listening to the album, as I've mentioned, I pick up an edge, a style of production that I really haven't felt like I've ever associated within some of Richard's previous works. This time it was different, so I went to check out who the producer was, and for all intents and purposes, it looks like Richard is the sole producer on this album, which is unique because historically in the past, he's worked with folks like David Cole, Fee Waybill at the Tubes, and a number of other notable producers. But on this go-around, it appears to be his vision, his emotions and heart, his ear, which is significant because when you listen to some of the more rock-oriented sounds or songs, the edge that's in there, it really does feel like there's more of an emotion behind it, and it's his emotion.
I remember long before we laid to rest the promises and washed them away. What a gift for one more yesterday. Did you know the ending right from the start? Bet you tear us apart. 'Cause when I fell completely. Hit me where it hurts, make it worse, baby. Underneath the skin, slip the dagger in steady. Tell a little truth in the light till the pain is a remedy. My love, my enemy.
At the beginning of this post, I used the term raw emotion because that's really how I feel. And the more that I would listen to this album, the more that I found that on certain songs, it really did feel like, Richard was trying to communicate at times frustrations, hopes, and a variety of other feelings, which you could make the argument that that's pretty much what any good songwriter does. But for whatever reason, on this album, those emotions, those feelings, felt like they were pushed up a little bit closer to the front. And you take a song like "Shame on You," where the emotions are very visceral. And when I first heard that, I'll be honest, I was kind of shocked that was Richard Marx. I mean, the emotions and the passion within the lyrics, were again very visceral. But then you bookend that with a song like "Maybe," which speaks about forgiveness, looking for common ground, looking for that second chance.
And maybe we're not too lost to be found. And there's such a thing as a second time around. Maybe someday I'll set myself free. Maybe you will wait.
So at the beginning of this post, I made the comment that, Richard Marx is arguably one of the most prolific and talented songwriters of the modern era. And, when I think back to one of the first songs of his that I heard, Hold On to the Night, well, that was just dripping with emotions. So, you could say to me, you could go, hey, Dean, look, Richard Marx always writes with emotions. And I'd say, yeah, you're right. It's just when I listen to this album, it feels different. And to be honest, Richard Marx could bump into me on the street after watching this post and go, dude, you were way off base. But at the end of the day, I hear what I hear, and the emotions that stir up in me when I listen to a song, they are what they are. And all I can ask of you is, go check it out for yourself and let me know what you think.